Have you used assessments in your company but nothing has changed? I want to help you make a big difference. Welcome back to the Help for Leaders podcast. I'm Stacey Harris. Before we jump into today's episode, I'd love for you to click here to subscribe, hit that thumbs up and that bell so you're notified each week when we post new content. Today, I've got a special guest with me. I've got Juan Kingsbury from Career Blind Spot. He's a trusted partner of mine. We've been working together for over 10 years, and we're going to share some success stories of clients and how they've been using assessments to really make a difference. So Juan, why don't you introduce yourself? Really excited that you're here.
Sure. Thanks for having me. My name is Juan Kingsbury. My business is Career Blind Spot. Using similar tools, I provided trainings, which we'll talk about when that's where I've grown as a trainer and facilitator as well. But I love using the assessments for self-inquiry, self-awareness, but I'm really passionate, maybe even obsessed with seeing them applied, whether it be hiring, team building, leadership development, etc. I think I even get a little offended when I find out that people take them and don't do that. So
I feel the same way. Absolutely. Absolutely. So we're going to share one specific client that Juan partnered with me on. And so I actually started with this client back in 2015, and they're a big national storage company, and they brought me in to do some leadership development. And so the first team that I was going to work with, they had a brand new senior VP of their legal and compliance department, and she was an attorney. And so I knew it was a big opportunity. I was going to be traveling. I was super excited about this. I had given her the Talent Insights assessment, which is DISC and Motivators, and she had taken it. And my perception of an attorney, what would you think? Just if you said attorney.
Oh, like guest styles?
Yeah, what would...
High, dominant, commanding or individualistic, theoretical or intellectual?
Yeah. Okay, so absolutely, except her highest was influence. High I and high D. So I was not expecting that high I.
Optimistic lawyer.
Yes, she was an optimistic attorney. So I was expecting the dominant, but yes, you're right. Theoretical and individualistic were her motivators. And so I thought, okay, this could be interesting, because then when I saw her entire team, which she's new, and she was wanting to quickly understand her team and get up to speed. It was about 20 other lawyers on her team, all compliance, high C, precise individuals. And she's this very low C leader. And so I knew I had to have all my ducks in a row. When I went into that training, I knew every detail. They were going to ask me all the hard questions. I need to have all of the information, high theoretical, lots of knowledge. And so I came in very prepared and flexing this high I, all my stories and personal connection. It was like out the window. Let's stick to business. And it was a success. I mean, and I even knew, looking at the graphs, I was like, this person right here is going to be my biggest skeptic. They're going to be my hardest sell, and I'm going to go after this person. And I did, and I won her over by the first break. I mean, she was all in. And then throughout that day, another senior VP came into the training, and he was over real estate and high D as well, high individualistic, high resourceful on this guy. And so he was like, hey, can my college kids take this? He just was sitting in the back of the room. I was like, absolutely. Sent in the student assessment. Anyway, I got the deal, obviously, because here we are in 2021. I'm still working with this client. And so we were able to go in and do talent insights across the entire organization, every department, really doing whole team graphs, and really saw transformation. And they said, okay, we want to take this to the next level. We want to use this in our selection process. And that's when I reached out to you, because you are the expert. And I've been doing this long enough. I know what I love. I know my passions. I know I could do that, but I don't love doing that. So I was like, why don't I reach out to Juan and let's see if we can work together on this client and bring all of your skills, all of your knowledge to the table, all your expertise. And so that's when we did our first benchmark.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Do you remember that?
Yeah. And then I think we even did it virtually, or virtual's the right word then, but we did it. Yeah, it was, I think, a pre-Zoom, but and there's a couple of things there, but I don't know
Yeah, so tell us about benchmarking.
Yeah,
First of all,
so-
just what does that process look like?
Yeah, so we all heard the term square peg, round hole. The assessment, people aren't pegs, but for the analogy, it tells you about the person, the individual. The hole or the role is the job, and so sometimes we have an awkward fit. So benchmarking is you still want to assess people when you're looking to hire them or promote them, et cetera. You want to know what they're bringing, whether they are aware of it or not. But do you know what you're trying to make them fit in? It's kind of like being a superstar basketball player. Great, you should be a great coach, correct? Usually not. It can happen, but it's a different set of skills. And so that role of being a team captain on a court is different than being in the coaching setting. So in the workplace, what a benchmark is, it's getting, hey, we have a job, we need to hire for it. And I'll be a little pithy here, but a lot of times people are focused on the wrong things. Not that they're not important, work history, skill set, etc. But if you've hired and fired or turnover and there's been an attitude fit, or a mismatch, that's where benchmarking is your friend of like, let's be clear on what do we want this job to do? Because what can happen is people, especially leaders, especially those of us who are high D's ourselves, high dominant, high individualistic, we're looking for where's the quick ROI, make the decision. Well, of course, we're the best style, so we should hire people just like ourselves. But if that was the case, doesn't always work out.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that we're the best style. In fact, I know I'm the worst style when it comes to doing my taxes or decorating my house or, I don't know, installing a new window. Not that I can't do it, but behaviorally doing it every day and feeling fulfilled or excited about it, probably not.
Yeah.
I could kind of paradigm shift and make myself, but I'd rather not do that. There's plenty of stuff that appeals to me. So what a benchmark does with that big corporation is what's the position, not necessarily the person just yet, and who knows that position. So let's just call it. Do you remember the job title?
I think it was just a general manager.
Okay,
position.
general manager. Who else knows that job? And different rules of thumb here. People say, hey, let's get at least 3, let's get 10. But what's important is that we get true subject matter experts, not just someone who's been doing this for 10 years. 10 years, it matters, but you want the cream of the crop, the 1%, if not 1/10% of the experts. And sometimes you don't have those people, but that's what you're looking for. Even if they used to do the job, maybe it's changed, at least if it's close enough. Here's something to think about. So just think of it in like a smaller organization, let's say 100 people. The person who started the company, they grow it. After a while, they probably have no idea what it really takes to do that entry-level job or that GM job middle. So I'm not saying they're not a subject matter expert in that context. So you want to get those people together and basically come to a consensus of why does this job exist? How should it be done? X, Y, and Z. Again, I like to go negative of who's in trouble when this doesn't work out. And then we work backwards because that's usually what happens again and again. So by doing that, we can now get a better breakdown of the role or the whole, going back to the square peg. And now we can see, oh, a high D is going to want to solve the problems because they're fast. You need someone who's going to make the phone ring versus wait for it to ring. And there's some semantic issues because sometimes like a job it calls for a high sense of urgency, or at least that's how we say it. But really it's a higher S, low D job.
Yeah.
Where someone is like, think of like a emergency room nurse or triage medical professional. You're not necessarily initiating that the 6 people are coming in. You're having to respond to it, but it ends up being repetitive. You have to be thorough. You have to be very patient. So could a high D do that job? Sure. But we're saying, hey, this role is you have someone who has to be very habitual and thorough again and again and again. That's why we want a high S.
Because when we find that person, they're going to stick around, right?
Yes.
They're going to love their job. They're actually, turnover is going to almost go down. We've seen that, right? Time and time again, where employee engagement increases, turnover decreases, and the team starts really gelling.
Yes,
and getting
people
things done.
want to be there and play their position, their role. Now, do people get tired, burnt out? Sure, but they want to recharge so they can go do it again. Something else, especially for those considering this, and you already know this, look at how often people call in sick. I've seen this study. It's going to be unique to everyone, but it's one thing to turn over someone, which clearly there's a bad fit or things just didn't work out. It's not always negative, but sometimes like sick days tend to go up. I know I personally, long before meeting Stacey, got a lot more sick when I didn't like the jobs that I was doing. And when I did, even when I was sick or unfortunate, I found ways to still contribute to my team. And it's not a binary black or white, but you will see correlations. And so a benchmark is getting really clear on, why does this job exist? What is the problem every day? And what DISC and motivators or driving force of style is best suited to do it. Yeah. Are there exceptions? Yeah. I've seen, I think you were saying earlier that the lawyer or the attorney, you were guessing them to be more SC. But my brain went to, this is someone who's leading something for someone else.
I was thinking DC is kind of what I was thinking. More direct, dominant, and very compliant. I mean, they're the head of compliance for a massive corporation. So I was just super shocked.
And sometimes, so people take these roles, and I mean, think of it this way: if we have your DISC style and your motivators, not every job is going to fit like a glove.
Right.
But the ones that come closest, and I'm a rough math kind of person, but 80%, that's a good fit.
Yeah.
But if you start to drop lower, and it's like it's too big of a glove, too low, or a job you don't have the freedom, or you have too much ambiguity, it's not awful.
Right.
But that's when you start to wonder, like, is there something better suited for me? So benchmarking, going back to the example, was, hey, we wanted to hire, and all those things I said earlier, it's not that they don't matter, but the work history, the interview, they matter, but they're even better when you know the person behaviorally and motivationally actually wants to align with this job. But that, and kind of point the finger at anyone's considering hiring soon, is you have to be clear on what that is. Because you can say, hey, your job is to do X, Y, and Z, but if the reality is something different the day they get hired, or you take something like a significant event for the company, jobs change.
Yeah.
You know, what a CSR is today, or an account manager, it shifts. Things like software and working remote. So it's being honest about what we really want for tomorrow and the future.
Well, I'm working with several clients right now that, because of the pandemic, there's been so much change, so much transition, that whole departments are gone now, and they have combined. And so, lots of shifts, lots of like, what is what is this new role? We've created a new role. And so we have the tools to actually help you figure out, get those key accountabilities on paper, get your subject matter experts together. Juan has a patented benchmarking process actually that we go through to actually help you create that assessment of what that ideal person, obviously we're creating an ideal person.
Yes.
And there's not an exact fit, but like you mentioned, getting that 80%, you're setting yourself up for success, so that you're hiring someone that's actually going to love the job, love the role, be a fit for your culture, so that hopefully you're sticking around.
It's you also think of it as opposed to, I think in a perfect world we want a thumbs up, hire this person, or avoid it. If only we had that for dating or relationships. But until we have those things, or I should say we believe that they work, it's not. I've suggested to companies or to hiring managers, hey, hire this person that isn't going to fit like a glove. But it's because all other options, they could find someone who fits like a glove behaviorally, motivationally, but they're not a heart surgeon. The hard skills matter. You can either, build a rocket ship, or you can. That's the job description. But I can also be honest with them. Hey, you're looking, let's just go DISC, for a dominant, influential person. Well, this steady, compliant person is going to be very hesitant in taking risk, going to be more tight-lipped, but that's what they need to do the job. And I always try not to make too many sports analogies, but it's like every now and again in the NBA that's filled with the land of giants, a dude my height, if not shorter, wins the slam dunk contest. They don't lower the rim. They need to jump, run just as fast, if not faster. They need to make up for these things.
Yeah.
So it's not to say, hey, well, just because someone wants to play and they're 5 feet tall, they can play. But being honest that, hey, this 5'5", I don't think I'd hire him for your center. But it looks like, wow, he can jump the highest. He's the best at rebounding, blah, blah, blah. But at least you know that this SC person is not going to magically become a DI. But if they're going to do their job well, assuming that's what the job needs, they're going to have to adapt quite a bit and probably take up meditation or get more massages. But if the job is successful, and if it's not, what it is they've only been an SC, and they've avoided the risk taking, the outgoing. So it's a way to predict the likely outcomes that are going to happen. What doesn't happen, and I don't want to go too much into this, but you said it, the job changes.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit, I'm biased. I'm a nerd about these things. I like to benchmark again and again. Anytime you get a new boss, whatever. But we are think about your own job and think about where you were a year ago, definitely 5. It's different.
Yeah.
It might not be radically different. Or here's something. You have 3 wonderful children. But when you first had the baby and then 2, and then the next one, you're still a mom.
Yeah.
But the job description has
Absolutely.
changed quite a bit. Your disc style is the same. But so that square peg and round hole, they're constantly dancing or fighting. A benchmark helps you make sense and make informed decisions for the future.
So good. And then style flexibility is so key.
Yes.
And so after we do the benchmark, then we can even come along once you hire that person and give you a full onboarding coaching guide, how to help that person be successful in the role.
And
so we're going to wrap up because
Okay.
you got so much. We're going to come back to this topic again because we have another client story that we're going to share with you next week. But I hope you've learned something today about how to use assessments successfully. I'm still working with that storage company. They're still using assessments today. All of their staff have gone through, they speak the language, they understand their drivers, they understand their behaviors, and they use it, they practice, they intentionally walk the talk of communication and how they're wired so that when they bring new people on, they're coming into a culture that's filled with just open conversations, really making sure people are a great fit for that job. So join me next week. We're going to talk more about successful client stories of how to use assessments in your business. If you enjoyed this episode and would like more information on emotional intelligence, behavioral styles, or communication, I'd love for you to click here to watch more episodes. And we'd also love for you to click here to subscribe so you're notified each week when we post more content.